Hello, Internet, and welcome to the 30th episode of the Deep Fried Neurons Podcast. And today's episode is a little different because first time in the history of Deep Fried Neurons Podcast, we have gotten a guest on the podcast. Yay! So today's guest is Dr. Vasudev Menon. He'll introduce himself eventually when we jump into the actual clip of the interview. And today's podcast is completely unedited. I have not cut out anything from this. It has been cleaned, like in terms of like removing the noise or whatever, but that's about it. Like there's not more than that has happened in terms of audio quality. And I'd like to apologize. There was a lot of honking on the road besides the venue that we were recording on. It was really unforgiving, and I couldn't redo things because it's a candid interview or whatever. But things will get better. I have faith. So yeah, cue the fucking. Hello everyone, and welcome to the first guest episode of Deep Fried Neurons Podcast. And today we have in a makeshift studio, which is really hot, Vasudev Menon. Vasudev is, you have done your PhD in immunology, right?
I have, yes.
Yeah. And he is a professor at SSLA, which is Symbiosis School of Liberal Arts. And what's your course's name?
I teach the minor biology program. Mm-hmm. I teach electives in theatre and sort of a halfway interdisciplinary elective or bunch of electives which touch upon the areas of biology, sociology, politics, philosophy mostly.
Well, I was unaware of like 3 of those things.
So was I.
Okay. I'm gonna get shit for this episode, am I not? For like poor research? Pretty sure. Oh, by the way, Isha's in the studio as well. She's sweating with us. Why do you think I said it like that? And we're recording on lapel mics. Not that you needed to know that, but now you do. We can't do anything about it. So today, first of all, I wanted to talk about chicken.
What about chicken?
Okay. Well, mostly about this article that you and I ended up talking about 6 months ago.
Right.
There was a antibiotic which was way too strong to be administered on chicken regularly, but it was happening in India very widespread, especially Wankies who supplied it to McDonald's and KFC.
Yeah, that's true.
What's the name of the thing again?
It's called Colistin.
Colistin, yeah. So could you tell us more about Colistin to begin with?
So I'm a little rusty in this area, but then again, I'll see what I can do. So with respect to antibiotics, there are different kinds of antibiotics, different grades of antibiotics. There are ones that are used generically, which are milder, which can be administered on the go, so to speak. Mm. And then there are ones which are quite strong, to put it in non-technical terms. So these are only used on in diseases which have somehow managed to bypass your first grade or second grade antibiotics. These are what one would call, these are your last resort antibiotics.
So
Colistin is one, vancomycin is another, and so on. So they're kind of like the silver bullet, if you will. Mm-hmm. So sometimes, this is bad practice. You skip the first 2 levels and you go straight to the one that really wipes everything out, or so you think. Mm-hmm. But the problem with going straight to a 4th grade, the really strong antibiotics, is that as with any antibiotic, there are what are called escape mutants which are resistant to those antibiotics. Mm-hmm. So you're getting rid of the susceptible ones. But the ones that are resistant to the antibiotic has no effect on them. And they end up multiplying and overpopulating the space that you're trying to get them rid of. So this unscrupulous administration of antibiotics, not just in chicken, but even on the general public is a huge public health hazard that India is facing with tuberculosis, and tuberculosis is a fantastic case where we have what are called multi-drug resistant tubercle bacteria, which are right now rampaging across India, and that's India is an epidemiological nightmare in terms of how disease spreads in the population, because we have very few barriers for these things to spread. Colistin use in chicken, therefore, brings a lot of alarms, and one needs to be very careful while administering colistin.
I mean, just so that I'm clear that I've understood what you've said, is it sort of like using the nuclear option directly?
Yep.
Okay, fine. And so how far-reaching could the repercussions be? Something like that.
I can tell you what the deal is with human diseases, because that's what I'm familiar with. It's a nightmare. So you have used your strongest weapon on an organism, and you have forcibly selected for organisms that are resistant to your strongest weapon, and you have let them populate. Basically means that you have no more weapons left as of now. And so the rate at which these organisms evolve is very different from our own rate of coming up with these new defense mechanisms. So it's hugely problematic. It's almost like if you've got nothing to go against them at the moment.
So are we talking like incurable tuberculosis?
We are talking about it means what it depends on what you mean by cure, but once you get the infection, particularly with tuberculosis, you've got to do two things. When you manage the symptoms, and number two, you get rid of the causative organism. You can still symptomatically manage, but it's going to be very, very costly for that, and it's ultimately cosmetic at the end of the day. It's not even going to give you longevity. It's just going to make your life manageable, but you're not getting rid of these organisms, so it is going to hit you hard at some point, and you've exhausted everything that you can throw at them. So,
but an antibiotic of that grade has to be more expensive than regular antibiotics, right?
You would think that, but that's true for everything else. But again, it's a question of demand and supply. So there's a huge supply need in terms of volumes, then the prices will go down. Then there is the underground market. Then there are various grades of that antibiotic in terms of its purity. So you can get cheap versions of it, which are not that effective, which are, if it were up to me, it'd be a lot more damaging than the real thing. So you get bad quality ones. You demand and supply, demand goes up, price goes down. Vancomycin is expensive compared to penicillin. You're right. So the more potent ones are, the prices are high. Not because they are difficult to manufacture, but it's also a deterrent. So I don't unscrupulously prescribe it to you. So I'm limiting access by pricing them high. But then again, if the demand is going to be so much, then I will have to let go of the price.
Okay.
So the reason why people are getting to use colistin and not anything else, not the other antibiotics, there are so many other grade 4 antibiotics, could also be because it's cheaper. But there's also a very technical reason which I'll get to later.
I mean, you could just jump into it right now.
Because the kind of bacteria that you're trying to hit with colistin are the ones that affect your chicken population mostly. These are called coliform bacteria. These are bacteria that hit the gut of the chicken. They're not very different from the ones that affects us. Like, for instance, E. coli, Escherichia coli is one which causes dysentery. Salmonella is another. These seem to be the ones that enterococci. These seem to be the ones that affect chicken most, and therefore you sort of favor colistin more than the other antibiotics, at least at a technical level.
Okay. I understood very little of that. I hope somebody on
The gut bacteria, the ones that give you bad tummy ache and things like that.
Yeah, Okay. What else did I have to ask? I should have written this down. I'm sorry.
And I'll tell you one more way by which these things spread. These things spread because there's horrible hygiene levels inside a chicken coop. If you ever walked into a chicken breeding facility, most of these bacteria are shed in the sense they get out of the host through their poo. And the poo often contaminates the food that these chicken eat.
Yeah, because the chicken is walking on their food and pooing on their food
literally
itself.
And so it's all a bit of a mess in that space. And so these gut bacteria have found a nice little home there in the chicken coop because they're gaining access, and for a bug it's very important it gets out and spreads. So it's getting this little production line in a chicken coop. And it's very difficult to treat bug bacteria because most other bacteria die if they enter your stomach because of the stomach acids. But the gut bacteria somehow tend to be resistant to them, and therefore it becomes very difficult for your own natural defenses to take care of. So if you had a cut, for instance, and if a bacteria infects that cut, these bacteria can be taken care of by your own body. But the ones that get into your gut have already breached a very potent natural defense mechanism that you have. And therefore, you need to use an external agency, which is an antibiotic. But if you outbreed an organism to a point where it is overtaking your own natural defenses plus the artificial defenses, you're fucked.
Yeah. I mean, you've basically created your own Frankenstein's monster.
Literally, yeah. Good analogy.
What are the chances you think that some of the new listeners who are listening to me for the first time think this is vegan propaganda?
I'll pass on that question. Well, vegans have caught on to this, but see, the idea is no matter what your ideology is, you just need to be informed very well.
Yeah.
So I'm not vegan. I love my chicken. I'm non-vegetarian. I'm Mallu. I love the non-veg meat. Beef. Yeah, I said it. I don't think it is vegan propaganda as much as it's something that one needs to be aware of. But here's the catch when it comes to dangerous bacteria floating about in your chicken. Now, as long if you're buying chicken from the supermarket, or if you're buying chicken from your local abattoir or butcher or whatever, as long as you clean your meat properly, because these bugs are not going to be in the actual meat that you eat. The meat that you eat in chicken is muscle. So the way the meat gets contaminated is if the person who's handling the meat has accidentally handled some part of chicken poo or chicken feed which is contaminated with the coliform bacteria which are being shed. Very few bugs actually infect the muscle, which is what you consume.
Okay.
So as long as you're cooking your meat properly, as long as you're washing your meat properly, you're okay.
So there are very few chances that frozen meat that we get at Venky's is infected the way it is.
I don't know about that. I don't have any data to suggest what the status of cleanliness or hygiene Venky's is. I personally don't like Venky's because they brought down Blackburn United, which is a problem,
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Fine. Let's not go there.
Okay.
You already said beef. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get doxxed and killed.
Well done.
Yeah. I mean,
even another life.
You're already a communist. You don't care about that shit, but I have to.
You use the C word and the P word in the same podcast.
Shit.
See, bad things happen to people who bash communists. Beef-eating communists.
I forgot what I was gonna say. But overall, it's the possibility of meat itself being infected is low. So, what if the meat is frozen? Does it reduce the possibility further, or
no? The thing with these coliform bacteria, at least some of them, And another organism that really is a problem with the poultry industry, I think, is Clostridium. There's a bacteria called Clostridium, which causes, in humans, it causes tetanus, diphtheria, and things like that. So these form what are called spores. Spores are a form of their life form. These are single-celled organisms. These are not very complex like us. So they can go in and out of shape very quickly. They can change their shape shift very quickly. So they form these forms called spores, which are very resistant to temperature and things. So even if you freeze and thaw them, some bugs will die, but not the ones that you want to get rid of. They can still survive. Case in point is eggs. So more than your chicken meat, eggs are something that, everybody cooks their chicken. Very few people eat raw chicken or partially cooked chicken. So
at least in India.
Where as a rule, you don't want your chicken to be pink. So if you're a chef, you cut into your chicken. If the chicken's pink, you don't eat it. But with the eggs, there are consumers who, particularly the bodybuilding kind, who tend to,
or wannabe bodybuilding like me.
The gym freaks would tend to do the egg meal, the raw egg meal, where there is no heat involved. So you're taking the egg right from your refrigerator, breaking. I mean, you don't store the eggs in the refrigerator, but if you do, you're taking it out, you're breaking them into glass, and you're gulping them down. So you have no defense whatsoever. And then there is also the thing that the lesser you cook the egg, the more assimilable proteins there are. So the tendency towards eating eggs tends to be, raw egg, poached egg, sunny side up. If you're consuming hard-boiled eggs, you're really not getting any benefits from the egg. So people tend to, and therefore people who do this end up with a lot of bad tummies. God forbid if one of the bugs that you're ingesting is a drug-resistant bacteria. So it's more than the chicken meat. The egg is the thing that one needs to watch out for. But nonetheless, as long as you're cleaning them, as long as you're preventing them from getting into your own system, you're fine. But that's point number one.
Okay.
There's also something called lateral transmission. So you don't know if these the exogenous material like soil or whatever that you're growing your chicken in, the dust or whatever, is going to carry these outside of the chicken coop and into the general populace. So imagine you're walking into a space where dust is flown, picked up this bacteria, it's settled down elsewhere, and you're touching that surface and you're accidentally putting your hand into your mouth. There's a term for this. It's called accidental inoculation. If you accidentally inoculate yourself, that's a problem. So I'm not saying that wash your meat and everything will be fine. The use of colistin is problematic. It needs to.
Okay.
In fact, I don't remember. It was in the New York Times. It was in 2018. I don't remember the issue, but there was an article which spoke about the Purdue chicken farms. I don't know if you've heard of the Purdue chicken. They are the ones who supply chicken to McDonald's and KFC and people like that.
I read about this. December 2018.
They have switched from antibiotics. So all the chicken are now antibiotic free. You know what they're doing? They're doing something really cool. They're using these things called probiotics. So they're using bacteria to fight bacteria. So there are some bacteria which prevent the growth of other bacteria in a certain ecological niche.
Okay.
Like for instance, lactobacilli, the bacteria that curdles milk and gives you curd, for instance, or at least it makes these things which it makes lactic acid which break down milk. So lactobacilli tend to prevent the growth of. Lactobacilli is a normal microbial flora in our own bodies.
Yeah, pretty common.
And these prevent the growth of other pathogenic bacteria wherever they are growing. So Purdue is now using these organisms, which when ingested are good for you because they're going into your stomach and they're going to be helping towards, let's say, leaching vitamins from your food stuff, things that you yourself can't do. Plus, they are fighting off bad bacteria. So dual benefits. I'm not trying to promote KFC or McDonald's. I much prefer home cooked chicken than, but
one of the follow-up questions I had about it is that Gauran chicken, the ones we grow all natural back in the village.
Yeah.
I feel much safer eating that after reading articles like these.
You would.
But is there any relevance? Is there any truth to my feeling of safety?
There is. So, I don't know if there has been a study that's been done to see how prevalent the problem is in India. Mm-hmm. When I say that, I know it. We have studies to say it's at problematic levels, but quantifiably how much? Has this bug has become so common in our soils and environments that even the Gauran chicken is no good? Mm-hmm. Is something nobody's really done any work on, or I don't think they have.
I mean, they're grown pretty close to the poultry farm that gets supplied outside.
Then you're by sheer virtue of space, mm-hmm. probability is that not the best. But I don't know if I'm sure there are farms which are
completely natural,
and there's probably some benefit there.
I mean, a lot of the village farms, the chicken that they eat themselves is completely naturally grown.
Yeah, I think they're fine.
Yeah, that's a trend I've seen, at least in Vidarbha. I'm not sure about other parts of India. But the other good news that I want to give my audience is that in December 2018, an article was published where I think Mumbai High Court is considering banning the use of the said chemical so regularly, at least.
Antibiotic.
Yeah. They're not giving it over the counter anymore.
Yeah.
That's the consideration that's been made, but there's no progress on it.
I don't know how good that will be. See, there's studies done on what happens when things get banned.
Yeah.
When things get banned, their use goes up, actually.
Yeah, tends to.
So, what are we doing now? I think policy and regulation, awareness, these need to be the way to go rather than out-and-out banning. Mm-hmm. We saw that with diclofenac, which is a painkiller. The minute countries banned diclofenac, there are the corporates found other areas where diclofenac was not banned, and the usage went up exponentially in those areas. Black market diclofenac went up. Mm-hmm. So who says there's nothing that this trend won't follow with Colistin? I think it will.
I mean, a lot more popular example would be the Prohibition era in America.
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's something everybody knows about.
Yeah.
So,
or in Gujarat. Why America?
Okay, are we supposed to say that?
I said it.
Okay, fine.
Chicken, beef, Gujarat. We're getting somewhere.
We're getting to our graves, bro. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
This is why I don't hang out with edgy professors. You guys shouldn't either. It's not good for your...
I wouldn't hang out with myself.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to cut out that branch of laughter. But anyway, this is going to go unedited.
Damn it.
There's no editing here.
Okay.
But I want to quickly and awkwardly shift to a place where you want to talk about is the new production with the drama queens.
Oh, yes.
For people who are not familiar with Vasudev and me being friends, it's that I worked as an actor with him on two productions, one of Merchant of Venice and another of Hamlet. One where he was a co-actor only and another where he was a co-actor and a director. And soon in June, the Drama Queens, the group that we are working together with, is bringing you Ghosts by Ibsen. And Vasudev sort of is using the podcast to plug it as well.
Yes, so coming soon to a venue near you, the Drama Queens presents Henry Ibsen's Ghosts. It's a beautiful play, and we've been working on it for about, I think it's the longest we've ever worked on a play, and we're exploring so many things with the play. We're using it as a learning experience, get some training within the group and so on. But it is we're exploring very many themes that are very dear to the Drama Queens, like traditional modernity, gender, and things like that. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be it's something that you guys need to watch out for, and we're very confident that it'll turn out to be one of our best works so far that we've done. First show is sometime in June.
Mm-hmm.
We plan to tour with it. Tentatively the 8th of June. And then there's a possibility of one more the following Sunday. In Pune this is. And then we hopefully are, for the first time with the drama queens, hoping to take this out of Pune. Tour with it in Mumbai, in here I go saying it again, Gujarat, and sometime in Bangalore, Baroda in Gujarat, and maybe back to my old haunt in Chennai and places like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun play. We just finished Hamlet before we did Ghosts. You were there in Hamlet. You were.
Yeah, we had a sword fight.
We were enemies in Hamlet. This play we are looking at this play as an extension of Hamlet, so you can see the ghost of Hamlet, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I can go on. This probably needs a separate podcast of how related Ghosts is to Hamlet, but it's going to be a good play. You should come and watch. It's going to be a good experience.
Well, Pune, you heard it from the man himself. Watch out, 8th June is when the play's first show will be in Pune. But people in Pune who are like into English theatre primarily might know about the drama queens. I mean, I've heard quite a lot myself.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, like
nice.
when I was working at DFA.
That's nice.
A lot of the time, people know about drama queens as the English theatre people, at least Shakespeare people.
That's good to know. I mean, that's one of the agendas, one of the visions of the drama queens is to establish an English theatre scene in Pune, because there is a strong heritage with Pune as far as theatre is concerned, particularly Marathi theatre is concerned. But because that space is so strong, the English theatre groups are few and far between. They are both spatially and temporally very small. Mm-hmm. So there is a space here and a time here to do English theatre, and we are trying to bring that to the people of Chennai. People of Pune, sorry. And I hear Pune is going to be a smart city very soon, which essentially means that the crowd is going to be a lot more heterogeneous. There are going to be people coming into Pune. They would require a platform, a space to engage in, to form a commune, if you will. And I don't want to sound very bourgeois or anything, but then again, English theatre, English is a language that's now accessible to a lot of people. And there's a lot of English content in other platforms as well. So English theatre ka ek jagah hai Pune mein, and I think we are trying to exploring to fill that gap right now. Which is great that people are associating us with English theatre. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one place that people recognize me from.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's and nice. Like my other job, I'm like that's sort of my individual thing. Could you recognize me for that, please?
I would, because we know that's. I mean, we get our memes from you.
Yeah.
So you are our meme lord.
You heard it here, guys. Go follow my Instagram page.
Yep.
It's lonely there.
A company of one.
Okay, we're sort of out of time here. Thank you, Vasudev, for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Anuj.
And well, see you guys sometime soon.
Hear you guys sometime soon. Pedantic professor.
Bye.
Ciao.
Okay, guys, that's all I have for you this week. But before I go, I'd like to summarize what I've learned from Vasudev and what I understood, so that we stand clear as to what I have to say from this podcast. So basically, the point is that the amount of colistin used in India specifically in like mass, like growing chicken on a large scale, is using too much colistin, about like 86.6% of a drug which is already extremely powerful, which might create like bacteria that is resistant to our solutions completely. The chances of you ingesting things like that is super low. Like literally washing that chicken would help. The antibiotics or the bacteria doesn't enter the muscle itself. So as long as you eat clean chicken, you're fine. However, the eggs laid by these chickens who are raised in these heavy drug resistant places, they're gonna be very dangerous to eat completely raw. And one thing that me and Vasudev never got to discuss is that a lot of the poultry that we get in India, specifically in the supermarkets, is injected with chicken stock, salt and water, which is why it's so tender and like it cooks so fast. So the amount of sodium in that chicken is going to be bad for your kidneys, but that's about it. In like on a shorter level, what's degrading your health in the chicken that is being served right now, the only obvious reason that I am aware of, and the one I discussed with Vasudev, is that the salt is gonna fuck up your kidneys. But otherwise, colistin itself is a long-term problem which might result in bacteria that causes diseases and is resistant to the solutions we have. And that's all I have to say. Please support us on Patreon if you like the content I'm making. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember that the 10 platforms that major podcasts are on, from Apple Podcasts to Spotify to Overcast to Pocket Casts, were available everywhere. Anchor FM is our key platform thing. And yeah, that's all I have to say. See you guys next week.